First, I would like to let everybody know that we are being recorded. So anything you say can or be used against you in a court of law. First of all, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Andrew Melson.
Present.
Andrew Strati.
Present.
Dan Osborne.
Present.
John Christ is present. Also note that our building commissioner, Steve Gorski, is here.
I need a motion to approve the April 17 minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the April 17th minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, let's get to petitions. Petitions number 225-B09 has been filed by Neil Schaefer, 322 South Slate Street, Culver, Indiana. The subject of the hearing is to request a variance of development of 16 feet 10 inches from the required 16 feet height requirement for an accessory structure.
And he is online.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer.
If you would explain what you're asking for, please.
So we built the detached garage, and I thought the plans had been approved, and it turns out that the garage is a few inches too tall, depending on where you measure it from. And so I'm here tonight requesting a variance for that. The garage is built. It's about 80% built. Anybody can go and look at it, see what a huge improvement it is over what was there before. But yeah, I was unaware that it was going to be too tall. So
Questions from members?
Mr. Schaefer, you said that depending on where you measure it from, it's too tall. Could you explain where those measurements would be, please?
So if you measure from the very front, you know, when it comes down, the driveway is sloped towards the street, so it measures taller there than it does in the back. And the back had a fair amount of dirt back there, but that dirt was removed to pull out the rotten concrete and put in new concrete. So the height difference is a little bit different measurement back there than it is in the front.
Do you know what it is in the back and then what is it in the front, please?
Well, when I measured it, it was 16.4 in the back, and it was a 16.10 or 11 in the front. So it's not easy to measure to get the tape up there, but that's what I measured at myself.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question, Mr. Schaefer. Was your builder aware of our 16-foot high ordinance at the time? Did he consult with Mr. Gorski at all on that?
No, they submitted their plans
They submitted the plans? Okay,
to the county who approves
okay,
permits. They were building on the same footprint that they tore the old structure down on.
so it didn't come necessarily through you?
No,
Okay, okay.
What did the plans show for the height of the structure?
Yes, the plans do show it says 16.10 on there. I'm not sure. I'm assuming the builder knew the code, but I'm not sure the answer to that, to be honest with you.
I have a comment on that. I spoke to the builder. He had some question too about where to measure it from, depending on what municipality or area you're in. The ways to measure structure height vary greatly. He hasn't been looking, the builder's FBI builder, and I'm not sure they've done a whole lot. And I know they haven't done a whole lot yet in Marshall County. I think it might be the first one. I know they got a second one started now. So when I say that, I ran into this with contractors before. Depending on where you're at, there's different prescribed ways to measure the height of a structure.
Is it just taken from the peak, or is it taken from the eave where?
In our ordinance,
Yes.
it's taking from the peak from from grade, which grade would have been essentially the center of that existing structure that was taken down and this was replaced. And he stated they used the same foundation for it, but had to replace the concrete along the edges in the back. It had crumbled. It was block. So they replaced that with poured cement. That would probably account for some of the missing dirt back there.
Is the side carport area, is that below the 16 feet?
It is, and it is, and they had a variance for that part.
Yeah, I thought I remembered us having a hearing about that.
This was the one that they came back and said they're 50.1 feet on impervious coverage. So they got the variance for that 0.1 feet,
Yeah, I remember that.
which was self-reported.
Oh, okay. So does it appear to be an honest mistake, or, I mean, like, is this something that was just oversaw? Like, overlooked, I guess, is a better way.
I think short answer to that is, to me, yes. I think it was, I go back to, I think there's some confusion on how to properly measure it for the contractor.
Could one of those possible different ways result in it being 16 feet?
I
can't answer that without.
I mean, there's a like slope, so I mean, is it? I don't know. But even if it's above 16 feet in the back, that doesn't really help.
We have a landscaper, FH coming to do all the landscaping, and a lot of that dirt in the back hopefully will be backfilled. So I feel like the measurement would be different a month from now than it is today. But
that's built up. That's not from grade.
Right.
Right.
Just fill. Mulch doesn't count.
yeah, I don't know if it'll be mulch or dirt, but they did, have to dig that out for the new foundation.
Is the builder the one that submitted the 50.1 impervious?
Correct.
What was it? Yeah, I think the builder did the calculations on that, if I recall. That discussion did take place prior to starting construction.
Yeah.
Mr. Gorski, what's your take on this? Your opinion?
My short answer is I don't have an issue with it.
Okay. All right, because we have come across, we've had height issues before. did not turn out well for the builder. And so this is kind of but that's not a precedent to set from what's happened previously, as we've always talked before. So
What are the options that the builder has to get it to 16 feet?
They would have to lower the roof, somehow lower the roof line down. So essentially take the roof off and
you have to take the whole roof off, take the rafters out, lower the walls, put it back on.
so you could use the same rafters or take siding off and lower the walls down, different rafters. Is probably the most reasonable way would be to take the siding off and lower the sides down.
Yes, for discussion purposes, my struggle right now is that situation should not be self-imposed. But at the same time, the builder self-reported the 50.1. So hard for me to say that, feel like this was an intentional mistake.
I tend to agree.
I think I feel that way too. The fact that there was nothing started before the variance of the 50.1. It seems like a mistake. But again, I struggle with
It basically have to be deconstructed because you have that breezeway coming in, that would have to take it down. That whole structure would have to be basically done.
You can't change the slope of that roof, you have to have drainage.
Right, correct. Mr. Chris, you have any comment?
No.
Okay. We ready to go to finding of facts? Do we have any comment from the audience? Input?
anybody else on
There's nobody else on the
No,
line.
anybody else in mind? Okay, let's go to finding of facts. Read the variance requested again. That petition number 2025-B09 has been filed by Neil Schaefer, 322 South Slate Street, Culver, Indiana. Subject of the hearing is to request a variance of development of 16 feet 10 inches from the required 16-foot height requirement for an accessory structure. First thing, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. I want to remind you, if you disagree on any of these, then you will not vote for the variance. The second, adjacent property, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And the third is practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The situation shall not be self-imposed. It will be based on a perceived reduction or restriction on economic gain. Mr. Melson, how do you vote on the variance?
You ask for a motion.
Oh, ask for a motion. Motion
Motion to approve
to
petition
approve
I make a motion to approve the variance for petition number 2025-B09 for 16 feet 10 inches from the required 16-foot height requirement.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Opposed, same sign. Right, yeah, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me tonight.
You should note meeting date on the form. Oh. Was the original meeting. Also, correct.
What is today?
The 21st.
We updated it on the other set, just not on this one.
It's up there now.
Okay, on to.
Thank you.
And I will give you that. Okay, on to our second petition, petition number 2025-B10 has been filed by Susan Thews. 2900 East Shore Drive, Culver. The subject of the hearing is to request a variance of development of 62-foot front yard setback variance from the required 85-foot setbacks from the center line of State Highway 117. This is to build an accessory structure.
So the ordinance states it has to be either 50 feet from the property line or 85 feet from the center line of the highway, whichever is greater. In this case, the 85 feet from the center of the highway was the greater. And that's for the front yard setback.
And does this actually sit on water? Is this? Or no?
No,
No,
No, okay.
No, it's
do you want
so,
to?
so the rear, I'll also note the
Okay.
rear of the property behind where they propose to build this drops off rather steeply.
yes. And I see that the site thing appears like from all the pictures. Sorry, my printer is not cooperating with me.
Thank you.
No, we have a garage, but we're looking for another accessory structure to park a couple cars and some storage for golf carts and bikes, just with life, you accumulate a lot of stuff and we're trying to get things undercover and, protected, locked up. And the structure will, if we get the 62-foot setback, then we would angle it a little bit to the south as well, so it could go even further. So, I don't want it that close to the road either. Also, our house from center line back to the closest part of the house is 47 feet. So we're actually back almost even with where our other garage is.
Substantially further back than the house that we tore down on that. Also,
Yeah.
it's only like 25 feet off the edge of the road.
I guess, okay. So the reason you're angling it is because
It drops off quite a bit.
okay,
to the
drops,
west.
because the
There's a
drop
big-
off, the topography of the
Yes.
land drops off.
We're gonna have to level it out anyway and bring some dirt in, but we couldn't bring in enough of it. Move it on back. And we kind of looked everywhere on how we could do it, but I think this would work out the best, and it gives us a better angle to get the cars into the front of it.
And so that corner will sit how far off of 117?
It's 62 feet,
62, okay.
yes.
From the center line,
I'm sorry,
from the center line.
from the center.
Now, this picture says 62 feet to the shoulder.
This is, yeah, it says 70.
It says 70 feet. to the-
Contract. In there.
Oh, that is a sermon.
62 feet from the property line on that back corner. Front corner showing 70 feet from the.
That's the center from the center line.
From the center
Yeah.
line.
Correct. Yeah. Which is farther back than your current house, the northmost corner of your house.
Yes. And like I say, the front of the house, there's a section that's 47 feet from the center line. So it's back quite a bit from that.
Okay, so the garage doors on the proposed garage that you want to build, is that facing the garage doors of the existing garage?
It's facing the garage, but not the doors.
The doors facing the road.
It sits back farther.
The doors are facing that driveway.
Okay, the garage, okay.
And then that way, yeah, that's the garage doors,
The
that,
double doors will be to the east and the overhang will be to the south. Correct.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Okay, so from the street, you would not see, you would just see a complete wall with no windows then.
Well, those are that row at the top or
Yeah.
corner of a window just to let light in, but it's not a, yeah.
Oh, that's that shaded part?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How tall is the structure with the cupola?
I thought the cupola didn't count for.
They do on our ordinance.
The sidewalls are 10 feet.
Well, just have an issue
Again,
about
different-
height,
I know.
height, height and structure.
It shows the roof peak at 15.
The roof peak at 15.9?
Decent.
Yes, I think so.
So this is the same builder that we just discussed, so they're familiar with what the height should be now.
Okay.
Well,
FBI?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
well, the cupola does count.
It does. In our ordinance, it's the tallest part of it. It should be the peak, but that's not what our ordinance says. That's something we'll have to work on in the future, but
So technically the cupola would count towards.
it would.
Okay.
And just a little side note, new construction house that's being built. They had to lower one of their chimneys down to meet the maximum height for a dwelling recently. Cause the chimney counted too, I know,
Can you build it without the cupola?
Yeah, we can. We like the cupola, but we can build it without. It doesn't do anything. It's,
Is there a loft in there or anything?
no, it's
it's strictly for
storage.
storage, yeah, there's not gonna be any.
And I'm sorry.
I mean, we'll have electric in there,
Right, oh,
but
obviously,
we're not
yes.
gonna have,
The
well,
peak is-
we would not have.
Right, you're gonna have
water.
electric doors.
Yeah,
Unless Bud's gonna go out there.
some lighting and fans, but
Right,
that's about
okay.
it. Yeah.
Now with that drop off, where would you determine grade?
so that's a really good question. So how grade's determined on this building is gonna be when the building's laid out on the ground. You'll draw an X across from corner to corner. And that center point of the X is grade.
So that'll be done before they get too far.
Yeah, they need to, well, if they'll be hauling some dirt in anyhow, so.
And pushing some, so you have a little hill, so it'll get flattened a little bit.
So moving to the south or west, you just come into a greater issue with the topography. Grass.
Right, that's, yeah, so they're saying the drop off.
It's fall in line with other homes in the area.
So the short answer is yes.
I like
Supposed to measure it from like within a given block. We're talking a country block here right now. Houses are pretty sparse along there. So really State Road 117, it's still Billy B. Shore Drive address, but it's still a state highway. So we have to measure it from there. So if you look at East Shore Drive, I think you'll see some that
Right, yeah.
But they are greater than the 50 feet from the property. I know that's, I'm just trying to clarify that. We have to go by the greater distance, but
I'd have to actually, I have to go back
I mean,
and
it's
just do a
62
quick
feet
measurement.
in the back corner, so that top corner, that's not the 12-foot angle.
But it is further back than their home.
Yes, by 15 feet. Yeah. 30.
Mr. Chris, do you have any more questions?
Nope.
Mr. Nelson? Mr. Addy? Oh, I think we need to go to finding facts.
Is there anybody, still nobody?
Are there anybody online?
There's nobody online.
All right, I read the variance requested again. Petition number 2025-B10 has been filed by Susan Thews, 2900 East Shore Drive. The subject of the hearing is to request a variance of development of 62-foot front yard setback variance from the required 85-foot setback from the center line of the State Highway 117, simple and accessory structure. Number one, general or the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Agree or disagree? Number two, adjacent property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Agree or disagree? The number three, practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The situation should not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. All items must be checked, agreed for this variance to be approved. Do I have a motion to approve the variance?
I make a motion that we approve petition number 2025-B10 for the development of 62-foot front yard setback from the required 85-foot setback from the center line of State Highway 117.
Do I have a second?
I guess before, can I ask a clarifying question before? So 62 feet from the property line takes you to the back corner. Should it be that we are asking for 70 feet from the center line for that front corner? If you approve 62 feet, then it's gonna have to, that northeast corner is gonna have to be back at 62 feet from the property line. And maybe these drawings are just not accurate to the foot. I don't make this proving so they can build it in the way that they have it drawn. Does that make sense?
All right.
So you're saying the 62 feet would be the west
from the property.
from the
line.
property line, and the northeast edge of the structure would be
70 feet
from the 70 feet from the property line, or from the center.
Does that make sense? What I'm asking, I guess.
I understand what you're asking.
I just don't want to approve 62 feet now, all of a sudden they have to move that northeast corner back to that 62 feet from the property line, which pushes them, I would say, about 8 feet south from where this is drawn.
You give them the lesser amount, it'll cover every, it would cover if they would change the angle a little bit on the garage during construction. Just the thought,
Good. I mean, I just want
that's,
to make sure that when they go to build, what we approve is
And
not.
or what about the height issue too on that? I mean, is the cupola gonna be pushing above?
it would.
But they said they could build it without, so if that's something that they decide that they want to do, then they'd have to come back for a different variance for that.
Right.
So if they can build without and you're okay with that, it's 15.5, then I don't think you could do it.
Right.
We don't have to note anything.
Well, no, that was my question, is whether we should note that in the approval or disapproval.
I don't think so, since it's spelled out in the ordinance. I will notice we work on our ordinances later this year. That's gonna be one.
That's gonna be one of the issues that we.
That's gonna get addressed.
Right.
The lot next door's got a barn that's, 43 feet tall.
Yeah.
So do we need to, I guess, reword the,
Amend the motion.
yes? Do we just leave it as it?
Probably to be safe, we should.
Yeah, I mean, because it's actually 70-foot setback from the center line, correct?
Yes.
Not 62 feet from the center line.
So what's center line, 10 feet? About, give or take,
10 feet, but
from property line to center line?
I don't know. It would approximately. I think
It's more than that.
Well, I mean, I
I
think
think
there's,
say it to the, I don't know where the property line is on this, so. Without knowing that, the owner may be able to better give you an
I mean,
estimate on
62
that.
feet from the center line, the way it's written. I mean, that would give them essentially 8 feet of space to the north for movement. Correct? So we should be good with that.
Well,
Mhm.
nah. If they're requesting 62 feet from the center line,
That gives them 8 feet of play from the way it's drawn on here. Because this is drawn at 70.
That corner could move up 8 foot.
Right. I mean, if they want to keep it at 70, that's fine. They're still in that zone, but
okay,
they could move it up to that 62 foot.
Right. I see what you're saying. It could go further to the north is what you're saying.
Yes.
By how they're,
So we don't need to amend it because the way it's stated is from the center.
They would meet the 62 foot. Okay.
We're all on the same page now. Sorry, I confused it. I second.
okay. All in favor? All opposed?
I
So motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very good. I'm glad you clarified. Makes you feel better.
Yeah, you might want.
We have a salary and so it doesn't have a poop along with it.
So we're gonna work on that.
Always remember that.
You shouldn't have to come back. We'll try and get that knocked out yet this year, get those ordinances updated.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a good night.
you should still be able to put it basically the way it's drawn.
Real, absolutely,
Your
yes.
existing house and garage,
Yes.
because the garage is full floor. Building.
Sorry to confuse you guys.
Pardon?
Sorry to confuse you guys.
Again, this is FBI building. I've never dealt with it before.
They told me they built a ton of buildings over here.
Pretty vague on. And kind of jumped around on measuring. I don't get that.
Remember by 322 South Slate, you can see their work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, on to old business.
Really, I don't know if this, it's been brought up, so I'll just call it old slash new business, but here, rules of procedure. Still trying to iron out the ones for the plan commission, which then the BZA will be modeled after that. The plan commission, the month before last, had a very hour and a half lengthy discussion about it. I made some changes. They're still reviewing those changes now. We're not on it. By the way, we're not on a timeline for this. We do need to have rules of procedure. State codes calls for it, but after years, if not decades without, we're okay to take our time to get it the way we want it.
And we want to wait for the plan commission to hammer out their
Because we want to.
rules of procedure, so we're mirroring.
I would recommend that. You're welcome to create your own or based on the draft.
No, that's all right.
Is this then based off of what they have so far, or is this just?
Are there any updates to this one since the last guy?
I can't recall if I carried the updates over to this one or not, so I'm gonna say no, probably not.
I do remember asking how this one that you gave us at the last meeting was different from the previous version. And you pointed those out.
Yeah, I mean, there's
And
a
I,
couple.
and I did look at those. And compare. And the only thing I was gonna say that on the second page, you have 7 twice. You're actually missing number eight. And then in the petitions and letters, the third line, there's needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And the building commissioner will be presented these to the BZA, and I think it should be will present these to the BZA.
You're an English teacher.
No, I was a PE teacher.
Okay.
I don't know, it feels like a room full of teachers, though.
You're the only one over here.
That's right.
I don't even know if I'm still on board.
But thank you. I'll make sure that we get that corrected. Class purpose going through these is to make sure we get it, ultimately what the board wants. And then that'll carry over for years. Just bottom line is, how do you have a meeting and what are the steps? So you'll have a guide, whoever's in the meeting in the future also will have a guide how the meeting's supposed to proceed.
Right.
So it's done consistently and keeps the meetings moving along.
Only thing I want to also comment on, since I was at the plan commission meeting yesterday, was the guys talked about adding the town manager to building commissioner for certain things,
That's applicable just to the solar ordinance for now.
only to the solar ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. I guess my question would be, would we need to put something in there to that effect? The town manager in the event that the building commissioner was not available?
It's a very good question, and I've thought that through already. And as we update our other ordinances, that should probably just be standard in a standard sentence for all of our ordinance book instead of just in an individual, like solar ordinance it is now, which is fine. But should probably be then, and what it's specifically states is that in the event the building commissioner's position is vacant, the town manager can make, in that case, that the decisions on solar ordinance. So if you don't have a building commissioner in place, there's nobody in the job, not just on vacation, but vacant position, then somebody needs to fill in. And that would be automatic if it was in our zoning ordinance. Otherwise, the town council right now has to, as they did for Jenny,
I was gonna say.
they put Jenny in as
Jenny was
a temporary,
basically building commissioner and town manager.
but we could avoid that if it was just written into the ordinance. So great question.
So it would basically mean that it would automatically fall to the town manager.
Yes.
Which would also expedite hiring.
Right, most likely.
Yep.
Good point.
I guess I have a quick question and I don't. How do we go about foreseeing those issues like we had with the first case where they're building on same foundation? And so you don't get those plans prior to them building, like that seems.
No. Now, in short, some of the plans, if they, because of our arrangement with Marshall County, if the plans, an application is submitted for a building permit and the plans are there and there was no variances needed, they have all of their drainage plans in place, everything is as it should be as they see it, then they'll just move forward with the permits. I try to get in there and look at them, but sometimes they get through.
Because I don't like seeing retroactive variants.
Yeah, I always thought everything was done in Culver had to come through Culver, but what you're saying, not necessarily.
Correct.
Can that issue be addressed with the county?
Yes. The answer is yes, it can. It can be changed that every building permit application, which is a really broad statement, but is reviewed by Culver.
Well, and I don't know that that's what.
It can be reviewed and approved, actually. Right now, the planning department is reviewing them, and after they review it, then it'll go to the county building inspector who does all of our inspections, and then he'll make sure the plans have everything he needs. We'll say for new construction, for instance, all the electrical, all the plumbing, and those things to look at. And he'll have that for when he comes in and does the inspections also.
I guess my question is, well, I don't know what Marshall County's ordinance says for accessory structure. Maybe there's a 17 feet and it didn't like trigger anything that is different than ours. And so they didn't see the need for a variance there.
Our ordinances mirror theirs very closely.
Very closely. Well, that could be the one thing that's not.
So when, from what I can tell, when our ordinances were put in place, it was a copy and paste from Marshall County. But there were changes made. And I also understand there was a lot of confusion when that was done. And the ordinances that were ultimately approved, I've heard from some of the board members, or I'm sorry, town council members, that's not what they approved when they had the final printed version out. So there was a great deal of confusion with that.
I mean, so as we update our ordinances, can we then go back and just make sure that they're, for the most part, mirroring what the county expects? I mean, like, because I don't know if the county goes from the peak of an accessory structure or.
We have to clarify that. Our language is pretty specific right now, the highest point. So I think our language for culvert needs to change that. We go from the peak of the roof, we're not gonna count chimneys and we're not gonna count cupolas and those things, that will go from the peak. And that other things can be a little bit higher than that. And it makes sense to me to do that. I think it's much more fair also. That'll be really up to the plan commission. Certainly, you guys have input
Yeah,
on that.
upkeep is not really the structural part of a building.
It's not.
It's an add-on accessory that's non-functional. It's just there for aesthetics.
This
You
is just my opinion, but if you have, we have 16-foot height, and this is what the ordinance is, I get that, it's black and white, it's what we need to follow. But a 16-foot height on your garage, if you have a truck that's lifted up at all and big, that's almost not enough building to pull a truck in like that.
Right, with the door height and everything, you're right.
With your sidewalls and considering where your sidewalls are at, and then adding your peak on, and you're gonna have to vary that based on your pitch, based on height, if you want it taller. It's complicated, and it could be simpler if we change where we measure from.
I guess the key is where do you actually measure from?
So I've been talking to some other contractors who do business in other places, so I'm getting some ideas on that I'd like to pose that they think is the builders actually feel are more reasonable, and they're the ones doing it. So I appreciate their opinions on it. And it's not gonna greatly increase the height of accessory structures if we choose to measure it from a different point, but I think it's something that needs to be considered. It's my opinion.
Yeah. You know, you couldn't pull
I
a
mean, even a
10-foot
boat
tall,
launch trailer.
10-foot tall vehicle in this case,
Yeah. I see what you're saying, yeah.
you
A
know.
boat on a trailer is gonna be taller than 10 feet.
Right.
You know, so
I understand.
I have a question for you. Carrie Cheseldine, 520 South Plymouth.
I'm sorry, your name?
Carrie Cheseldine,
Could you spell it?
sure, CaryCheseldine, 520 South Plymouth. In this situation on Slade Street, I'm just curious, to the point they come to you for a variance, have they submitted anything to the neighbors to say, oops, you know, we made a mistake, and is it okay with you guys if we ask, or if we do are allowed to build higher? Because ultimately, don't the neighbors have some say in this, since it's a,
That's why we send letters to
Yeah,
all the
we were all
neighbors and publish it in the paper.
okay,
So the neighbors have an opportunity to speak up if they like.
so that was done
Yeah,
for this.
That's required, it's required by state code that it gets published in the
You got a
paper.
notification, right?
yeah, I got
Hey,
it.
Andy got one, he's a neighbor, yeah.
So nobody had objection, apparently.
No, there are no objections. And if the objections are submitted, they have to be given to the board for their review.
Second part to that same scenario is there any kind of accountability in this? So the builder obviously had to know the parameters within the jurisdiction he's building. So it would have been incumbent upon them to look up the rules and regulations. And when they got to a point, they should have figured out this is going to be higher than we're allowed. So we need to stop and regroup. In this case, they just went on ahead and continued to build. So is there no penalty?
They didn't know that they had built it that high until I was on scene. I went there
I mean, they're professionals.
and I'm the one that caught that it was too tall.
Right.
Yes, they're professionals. Yes, they have a responsibility to check those ordinances.
So there's no penalty for this. I mean, it's like, it comes to you guys reluctantly, because I mean, it's the 9th hour and and there's really no easy way to back out. So you allow the variance, but shouldn't there be a penalty on the builder because he's the one who would be the most responsible for this? And if you got a fine on these people, then maybe this ask for forgiveness instead of permission kind of thing might slow down a bit.
It's hard to find the builder because he's not the property owner. So I think if our attorney was here, I'd ask him that question. I don't think it's the property owner's ultimate responsibility.
Okay. Again, some sort of impediment to just going ahead unchecked would be.
The impediment is that when I become aware of contractors who may have had an issue, I watch them very closely.
Sure. I would think so. It just seems like there should be a fine. It's like a fine. We're gonna go ahead and approve this because it's obviously that.
I think that gets into a legal matter. I don't think we can answer without our attorney.
We have fines for other things.
We do, but I think that would get back to who owns the property and who would ultimately be responsible. So you penalize the homeowner versus the contractor who built it.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you're gonna break the law and we approve it, either that or take it down to the right size. I mean, I'm sure they'd rather pay the penalty, but at least there's some sort of a speed bump there for future recklessness or irresponsibility.
Well, I think one of the things, if it would have gone, if that permit would have gone through Culver, then it would have never happened. That's the issue that I have with it. I think it's more Plymouth's problem, or they created the problem.
Marshall County.
Or
Marshall
or
County.
Marshall County. Marshall County's problem, they're the ones that created the problem. You know, they should have caught that right away, and they didn't. You know,
That's a great thing to.
and they issued the permit, so the builder's going, hey, I'm just gonna build it the way I got approved, and I don't know any different. You know, like you said, Caesar asked for forgiveness and permission, and that's exactly what happened here. You know?
So
And that's what I was,
I've several times when I do I've caught a lot of things from the county and stopped permits. I try to get through them all. I don't necessarily, but I try to get through them all, and I have stopped in that several different projects from moving forward because I've caught things the county's missed.
and that's why I was asking if there's some sort of mechanism.
Yeah. There's gotta be the ability to put some red flags in the system where.
To build, what it would be is to have the county put me as the approver on it, and then I would check boxes and it would fall to me.
So what process would there need to be to get the ball rolling on that being done? Can that be initiated by you?
It can, yes.
Are you willing to?
Do we have the manpower to?
That's the whole
That's
the issue. I mean, Steve only has so many hours a day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a reminder, I'm part-time too.
Right.
Um,
I don't wanna overwhelm the role so much as that. You can't keep anyone in it.
And I would add that I hesitate to do it also right now, because there's a chance I'll not be here after the end of the year.
So
It's not for sure yet, but it's fairly likely.
my question to you then is, what percentage of permits go through Marshall County that come to Culver? And what percentage, obviously, then the remaining percentage would be applied through Culver?
So 100% of permit applications for Culver's zoning districts go through Marshall County. The applications are made online using Marshall County's software.
So you don't necessarily, but how many do you actually get to see? If I get a building permit,
The only time it comes to you for a final approval will be if they need a variance, correct?
Yes, typically if there's variances, I get frequent calls with questions about particular applications.
So it's probably a small percentage that actually comes to your desk.
I'm gonna say it's a small percentage that I don't get to see.
Okay.
And that's with my intentional effort to go in and check that. When I'm here, I check it on a daily basis. Which is typically Monday through Wednesday. And I try to make up for that when I come back in, but I can't necessarily, I don't necessarily catch them all unless I can. I don't necessarily catch them all. The approval process is when somebody makes a permit application, it goes in. They put all the things they need in it. The plan commission, planning department for the county will look at it and make sure it has everything they're supposed to review the plans, where it sits on the property. They're supposed to review the entire thing. And then it will go to, once they're done with it, if it's a building permit application, it will then go to the county building commissioner. He's the inspector. And it'll go to him to do final checkoffs on it. So there's actually two parties in the county that are looking at it. So it's clearly not a perfect system, but it's pretty good. To go further, I've looked at software for Culver to manage all that through Culver. It's cost prohibitive versus the number of permits we get would never pay for the software. We have a very nice deal and arrangement with Marshall County.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if it's just cost prohibitive for Culver.
It is.
So it's cost prohibitive, and we're also looking at a part-time position, not a full-time position.
Yes.
So with those two factors, that's why we need Marshall County.
Yes. So I often explain to people that more of what I do, this is really oversimplifying it, is the county makes sure that it's being built correctly, and I try to make sure it's being built on the right spot on the property. It really oversimplifies it, but it's basically it.
I guess our next meeting, do we have anything coming up? Are we gonna deal with the South Shore issue?
Yes, there are 2 cases in June, and one is going to be the Burns property and come back up again. They withdrew previously.
Attorney will be present at that meeting.
Our attorney will be present, yes, sir.
Good.
He's prepared for that. I'll be sending you, I can send it to you really early. I have quite a lengthy memorandum or document from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Nussbaum. I'll be happy to send you when we get a little closer. It's quite lengthy, explaining, coming at the same case a different way.
I just need to ask, as a member of the BZA, I can come in online. I can attend the meeting online.
You can. If you're going to participate, we have to be able to see you. So I have to put you on the TV.
All right.
I have to be able to see and hear you.
Okay. I will have to do that for June 19th.
Okay.
I got excused from my summer duties for June 19th.
Have motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second
All right.
Okay, thank you all.
Yeah.
it. Look at that.
Oh, there it is.
Danny Osborne,
Yeah.
729.